This is a tutorial for skydiving speedrunning. I will be going through many of the different strategies I personally use. I think these are the best strategies to play skydiving properly. It is possible there are some strats that have not been found yet, but if anything else gets found, I'll probably do another video to include it. I will be going through every strat for every skill level in ascending order, which is to say, I will start with the things that pretty much everyone should do from their first attempt, and I will be ending with the strategies that you should only do when you're at the highest level of play. Sounds good. So the first thing I will go over is counting and bunches. Bunches is the name we give to, well, the bunches of four meats that are everywhere. Like here you can see, this would be our first bunch. There is another bunch right there, and many others will spawn. Due to the way scoring works in skydiving, you want to always grab the four Mies in a bunch, unless specifically stated otherwise in the route. So here I grab my first bunch. I will go over how to best grab them in the future. But the important thing is that while you grab your bunches, to keep track of how many you've grabbed in a game, you count with your hands. This may sound very silly, but trust me, it's better to use your. I play with my right hand, so I use my left hand to count. And the main reason why this is good is that there's a decent amount of thought you need to put into skydiving, believe it or not. So, counting with your hand makes it so that you don't need to think nearly as much. It becomes an automatic process after a while, which lets you it lets you think about the more important things of the moment. As soon as I grab the first me of the bunch, I raise one of my fingers. Once I reach 5, um, I just close it and start again. So after I close it, then I raise another finger, and that's 6. Right now I'm at 6 bunches. Despite talking and concentrating at the game, I've been able to keep track because of my game. The rules in skydiving, for the skill level categories at least, but it's also relevant for all STEMs, rely on counting bunches. So on your splits, you'll have, for example, game 1, 6 bunches, or as we like to abbreviate it, 6N. Um, Instead of counting the points you require, which are 160, you can instead count how many bunches you've grabbed, which is so much easier. So yeah, that's counting, very important. Now let's go on to the general movements. Actually, I will quit out of the game first, and I will show you something that you may not know, but it's extremely important for skydiving. You see this option, sensor bar assist? It is crucial you turn it on before playing. Sensor bar assist helps you calibrate the controller. If you have it disabled, due to the great amount of movement you do in skydiving, when you point straight to the TV, your Mii will not be pointing straight to the TV. If you have it enabled, however, the game will realize, oh, the player is pointing towards the screen, he wants the Mii to be moving forwards then, so we'll hard code it to that. Another important thing to do with this is that the sensor bar works with infrared lights. However, there may be different infrared light emitters in your room. For example, if you have your windows open, they will emit infrared light. So, just as an example, I will open my window real quick. And right now, I'm pointing straight at my window. And as you can see, my cursor is picking it up. However, it's not picking it up very well. It's an inconsistent infrared light source, but it is still affects the game due to sensor bar assist. So you either want to close your windows or put something in between. I like to have them open, but I have a big chair so that it covers the infrared light coming from the side. And if you have any other sources, just keep that in mind. Now that we have that over with, let's go over the general movement. I'll not even grab the bunches here, just to show off. When you're like this, perfectly stable, you will not move nor forwards nor backwards, and you will follow slow speed. When you're pointing straight downwards, you will not move forwards nor backwards, but you will fall at great speeds. You'll need to find some sort of middle ground. Right here, you can see that I am pointing a bit downwards, so I am moving forwards very quickly. But I'm not falling too much. You can see that I am emitting some, I guess, wind waves. The downer you point, you will not necessarily move quicker, but you will pull faster. This also works while going back. It is sometimes important to move back, so it's important you know how to do that. To move backwards, just point the controller a bit upwards, like this. To move to the sides, you can do two things. You can either point to the side you want to go and tilt the remote downwards. That works. It works for every side. It even works for going backwards, though it's not very practical. Or the other thing you can do is do something like this, where you point downwards and tilt the remote to the side. Personally, I pretty much never use that. I always like to point to where I want to go and tilt the remote downwards slightly. Though sometimes it is necessary, and I will show off why here. When doing movement to grab the bunches, it is not too difficult generally. You want to use the other means to grab the means that are remaining. So that was... Let me set myself up better. You saw that there my controller calibrated because it picked up the wrong sensor. Sometimes Gwen will be in strange positions, like this. And like I need to be pointing towards Gwen, and all four me's need to be pointing towards Gwen so we get the most points. But in this case, I want to go to the bunch that is right there. So I just point my face like this. I do this by tilting the remote, not really tilting, but twisting the remote to the right. And then I just kind of tilt it a bit downwards to that side. Let's see if I can do it in full motion. Maybe it looks better. Here Gwen is there. So I tilt the remote to her. Or I twist the remote so that I'm looking at her. But I still have a free range of movements that I always need to have. So while you're pointing at Gwen, you can still you can see her by twisting the remote, but you can still point towards different places. So this is crucial to understand to play this properly. I'm still grabbing some bunches so we can see more Gwen things. She generally is to the side, but she's not always to the side. So you need to be careful. Sometimes the most annoying pattern, at least for me, is when she's like right here and to point like this. But even in those situations, you still have some range of movement. Like if she does this, you'll still move to the back. You can even tilt, you can over twist, I like to call it, and you will fall a bit quicker. But you generally don't want to over twist, unless there's a specific reason why you would want to do so. So that is just how skydiving movement works. I will go through a bit of a summary right now, because it may be good to have this as a general reminder. Link up with the other skydivers, we will not be seeing that. The downer you tilt the remote, the faster you will fall. Your me moves towards the place you're pointing your remote, and if you twist it downwards, or not twist it, if you tilt it downwards, you'll move faster. Up until a 45-degree range, more or less. If you do it any more than that, you'll fall faster. You can point wherever you want, and the general movement principle will still apply. You can twist too. The exact moment you twist, you'll start falling quicker, but then it levels out as if you were standing straight. Even if you twist the remote, you can still point it, and it has some effect, though not a lot. You only want to twist to see the camera properly. So that is general movement. Now that we've learned the best movement techniques, let's go over how to best grab the bunches. There are many different types of bunches, but the general principles always apply. Um, I can help a bit with this, but there's a lot of experience. You need to find the ways that work for you, but I will show what works for me. I always try to use the mix I am grabbing to help me grab the others, because they can do that. I always form sort of a straight line like that. Because the main reason why you want to use the other Mies and not yourself is because they have a greater range of motions. Like, if I tilt myself, I don't do very much. But if I tilt the other, like, it does some sort of circular motion. Like, the longer your chain is, the more your movement will affect it. So you can move greater distances. Sometimes Mies will be higher or lower. It's generally best to grab the Mies that are higher and then tilt downwards like that. There you grab them quickly. And that's pretty much it. I don't have too much to add. The principles would be, I think, take advantage of the fact that you're a human centipede that's ever growing, and use the Mies you're grabbing to your advantage. For example, here, I can grab 2 Mies at a time instead of just grabbing one. And that is very powerful. You want to minimize the time you spend grabbing bunches, and you want to maximize the utility you get from the Mies you've grabbed. These are just some general principles, because it's really hard to say exactly what kind of movement you should do. You'll get better with practice. But the main takeaway is that you use the other Mies. Don't only use your Mii. Your Mii is pretty useless by himself, or herself, or himself.
Okay, here we go.
The other Mies, however, have a greater range of movement. If you have like Mies on 2 different sides, you can use them to grab 2 different Mies. Like this. I guess I can go over my technique for grabbing the first bunch in specific. This is sort of the beginner strat. There's a faster strategy that I will go over at the end of the video. But I will just show how to do this, because the principles you will see here apply for pretty much every bunch. So here is one in the middle. First, you want to grab the one that's in the back. Use them to grab the one that's to the right. Use it again to grab the one that's forward, and use yourself to grab the one that's to the left. And that's it. Grabbing bunches is an acquired skill because it's very situational. How exactly you want to grab them depends on how the Mies are set up, what your approach is, and how exactly you've grabbed the Mies in the past. But generally it works like this. You want to build a long chain that has a greater range of movements than you could have on your own. What you don't want to do, let me show you. You don't want to do something like this. That's sort of simulating what it's like when you grab your Mies like around you, and you can instead do something like this. So yeah, that is grabbing bunches, a very important skill, but it's arguably not as important as routing. You may be surprised to hear that there is routing here, but routing is the main way you gain and lose time in this world. What I mean by routing is your movement between Mies, between bunches. At the start it's very easy, because there is only one bunch, but then it gets more complicated. Like here, there's a bunch to the left and a bunch to the right. Where do I go? The main thing you will want to prioritize is the proximity. In this case, the one that was to the left was closer to me. Generally, this is not always the case, but generally, the bunches will spawn to the right, to the left, and in front of you. Most people just go forwards without really thinking too hard about it, But that's generally the worst way to go in my opinion. Because if the meat spawn to the left or to the right, they are generally closer to you. Like here, and new bunches are spawning, but we can take advantage of the ones that had spawned before. If you don't go too far from them, they will still be there. And as you can see, moving like this, circularly, is much faster than just going straight forward. So by routing, you need to not always go forward, sometimes going to the sides is good. And you need to have a solid grasp of how spawning works. I'll try to do a better explanation of how spawning works here. And how despawning works too. If you go too far away from the bunches, they will despawn, which is bad, honestly. You don't want to go towards a bunch, only to find out it's not there anymore. Bunches generally don't spawn alone. They tend to spawn in groups. Like you can see right here. 2 bunches spawned. One forwards and one a bit to the right. Generally, when you have 2 bunches that spawn like this, they're generally in the same distance to you. Which means that if you can take advantage of it properly, you can simply move to the side and grab it like that. Your advantage of grabbing bunches that are to the left or right of you instead of forwards is that, I will not go over too much detail in this, but due to the way these bunches spawn, the next spawn will generally be closer to the one that's to the right than if you were to simply go forwards. If you were to simply go forwards, the bunches that will spawn will always be a set distance forward. But the game knows that if you were to want to go to the right or to the left, it needs to spawn the bunches closer. And this effect sort of compounds over long enough chains. You can see that the bunches I'm getting here, while going forward, are simply not as fast as the ones I was getting before, when I went to the side and then went forwards again. I will do one full game, and I will comment over the route decisions I make. So this is sort of a live demonstration, pretty much. I will go 7 bunches, and then I'll drop down. Here it's very simple. I'm already taking note of the meat that are spawning. I need to set up my chair better, because I'm just calibrating consistently. So I'll just restart this demonstration and try to play better. Because you also need to remember that you need to face the camera. You can't simply move. You need to face the camera. Remember that when facing the camera, your default movement is forwards. You can take advantage of that as always. You want to move towards the different bunches while you're taking turns. Just grab this first bunch. I'll go to the one that's here, and I'll go right. I have already taken note of the bunches that have spawned. I know one that spawned there to the left. I am not entirely sure if that's the best one to get. I am pretty sure that the best one to grab here is this one, the one that's in front of me, because I can get very quickly. And now I have 5 bunches. One spawned forwards, but I prefer the one that's here to the right. And our one spawned forwards, but I saw that one spawned here to the left. And I grabbed the miss appropriately, and I kept there as soon as the R1s have landed. This is 7, but this is just a demonstration. I can get 8, because this bunch is very good. I can simply drop down, grab it, and then I'll just simply drop down. And yeah, there it is. You saw that I grabbed bunches pretty efficiently, way before I got the formation text, the formation count. I mentioned this here, I didn't mention it before, so I will mention it more formally now. The concept of movement between bunches is very important, but also how you grab bunches has a big effect on how quickly you can get from one bunch to the other. This one there's not much to do, but let's say as an example, I'll try to get both on screen. I want to grab this bunch here to the right, and then grab this one to the left. What's the best way to do it? You first want to grab the minis that are farther right, and then the ones that are farther left. If you do it this way, you'll naturally be pointing towards the left, so you will be able to move quicker to where you want to go. And that is a very important concept, so you can move quicker, and you should take that into account while you're routing. So yeah, that is routing, pretty much. I've mentioned moving from one bunch to the other between graphs, and now I will expand upon this concept a bit more. I would say this still falls into routing. When routing, you want to grab the bunches that are the closest to each other. You also want to prioritize how far down they are, but mostly when you're starting is just how close they are to each other. And now we'll go over how to best move towards them. I told you that when pointing towards the camera, you move forwards, and that is true. But the way you're pointing has a small but significant effect of your movement. Like, if I am doing this, it's not the same. Let me grab another bunch to show you. Like, setting yourself up towards the right is not the same as setting yourself up towards the left. You will move ever so slightly to the left or to the right. So it's good to take advantage of it. If you want to get a greater control of your movement, instead of pointing straight like this, you can try being a bit more tilted like this. Your minis have a good degree of neck movement, I would say. All the minis have a good degree of neck movement. So you can not point directly straight, you can more like this. And most minis will still face the camera, which is good. You need to remember that your default movement is forwards, but you can have some effect on it, depending on how exactly you point. And you also want to, as soon as the camera gets, as the photo gets taken, you want to stop pointing your face towards the camera and point towards where you want to go. I'll show you a very quick example right here. It's important to get this timing right. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I point my face towards the camera. I see that the photo gets taken, and I instantly point forwards. And I point forwards, then I see where Gwen is, and I tilt my controller, or I twist my controller to fade so that all my minis are facing Gwen. And as soon as that happens, I'm again pointing forward. Let's say it in full motion. Like that. That's another important aspect. You want to take advantage of the moments where you don't facing the camera, because you have a greater degree of movement there. It is also important you minimize the time where you're pointing towards the camera if you want to move to somewhere specific. You can delay going towards the camera. Like here I twist at the very last moment because I want to move here and I don't have all the time in the world. I just want to optimize my movement. So I do that. The later you twist towards the camera, the riskier it is. So you also need to keep that in mind. And I will also show you a strat that you will only sometimes use if you need to fall quickly. You can point towards the camera like that. Instead of pointing like this, or like this, you can also point towards it like this. It is pretty tricky to get right. I personally very rarely use it. But if you have with certain bond formations, it may be the best choice. And now that we're talking about different types of bunches, let's go over them with a bit more depth. I would say there are roughly 3 or maybe 4 types of bunches. and you want to approach them in slightly different ways. And the way they spawn, it depends on how far into the game you are. You probably already noticed that, but like here in the second bunch, we'll see the first most difficult type of bunch, which is sort of the diamond or the square, and there's not much to them. They're just normal bunches. There we'll see another one. The way you want to grab this is first grab one me to your left, one to your right, and then use both of them to grab the other one. It's too hard to play skydiving while buffering constantly, so that was not the best demonstration, but I will show you in real time what I meant. You will want to do what I said there if you're approaching them, like I guess straight up. You can approach the bunch in two different ways. Oh, the lead button is covering everything. There we go. You can approach it in two different ways. You can approach it like straight towards one me. For example, I could go here straight towards Matt, or straight towards this P to the right. Or you can go between them. The method I just told you is like if you're going between two me's. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the other bunch type. It's more of a line than a square. And here you want to take advantage of the fact that you can create elongated chains. You want to grab one me, use that me to grab the other one, and so on. This is a square formation, but that one that's in front of me is a line formation. You want to do it like this. 1, 2, 3. And that's the quickest way to grab it. There's some overlap, of course. You could approach this one as a line or a square. I here approach it sort of in between. I use the two sides strat at first, but then I transition towards a green line. Here it's unambiguously line, so I just use that way to grab it. And here we have one of the most interesting me patterns. You can't really see them due to the pausing, but it's the downwards line. So that's the bottom. There are many. Oh, there's another one. That's great. They are very good because they allow you to drop down, and you obviously need to drop down to end the game. The best way to grab them, in my opinion, well, I completely messed it up, but is to grab the lower meat first, and the other ones will fall into place. In theory, it would be better to grab first the one that's highest and drop down, but in general, you'll simply not have enough time to go to the one that's higher up. The one that's lowest is the one that's also closer, and whenever you move, you fall a bit. So, due to those reasons, you'll want to grab the ones that are at the bottom. So that's pretty much all the meat types. There is one more. That is the really long line. You'll only find it at the very end of games, so it's not the most important one to learn how to play. But I will just like do one deep run and show you how it goes. Wow, completely decalibrated. Sometimes you'll just decalibrate and there's really not much you can do, unfortunately. I would not say this port is controller dependent, but you need to sanitize your gameplay zone, I guess. The infrared lights are the main thing, I would say. And the topic of calibration, I will show you one tip I've learned with my years of skydiving, which you may find useful. I personally think it's super useful. If you're starting to recognize the different bunch types and how you may want to grab them. That was not the greatest routing on my end. It works just fine. This is as the longer you play, the more line formations you'll see. And this is the final type I will go over because it's just a final type of there. It's sort of the long square and the long line. The long square and the long line are both played exactly the same. You will want to use yourself. You will want to create a long chain of moves. The knees are so spread out that the method of like grabbing one of your knees to the side, one to the other, and then using both of them to grab your mini ones will simply not work. So, really do that. Just as a reminder, this is a normal square, and you want to grab knees like this. So yeah, those are all the different formations. You want to always this is the order in which you want to prioritize the different formations. First, you want to prioritize the downward line because it allows you to roll more. Then you want to prioritize the square because it's easier to grab them quickly. And last, you want to prioritize the line. However, these are mainly advanced concepts. If there are two bunches that are very close, you'll want to use that as a tiebreaker. But in general, you'll always want to go to the bunch that is closest to you. Remember to look to your sets. Now for the small trick I was going to tell you about. There's a decent amount of menuing here. You'll need to mash A lot without really doing any D-pad movements. So what I like to do here is, if you have any sort of soft surface, just place the Wiimote in it and mash A like that. If the Wiimote is completely straight, it will naturally calibrate. And you can keep it straight up until this point. And after it, you can even place it, like I have a bed here, you can place it on your bed or your sofa or whatever for a bit longer. And it really helps calibrating. It truly does help. So that's a free tip from me to you, if you're experiencing calibration errors. Now onto the very final strats. Which bunches to prioritize? That was sort of an intermediate strategy. But now I will show you the latest discovery in skydiving technique. It's really difficult. It's only for like the best players. But it's best to have a record of it somewhere. And you may practice it and you may find that you have success with it. So it's definitely worth at least testing out. But you need to have a good grasp of skydiving. This technique is called run. It goes something like that. I did not perform it perfectly because it's really tricky, but that's generally how it should go. You saw how I was talking about like the different chains. I want to create a line of knees. Well, this is pretty much that taken to its final form. You want to use your arm of knees to grab them all extremely quickly. Let me see if I can get a better example now. Yeah, there we go. If I can get another example. Nice. Well, not quite the arm, but the other two examples were very good. So now I'll just like play a bit and I'll explain how the arm works. I'll try to go over it in more detail. It is most useful in the very first punch that you always grab. So I recommend you practice it there.
Okay, here we go.
The main reason why the arm works is because you can generate a lot of rotational velocity. Like, look at how quickly my knee goes from pointing to the left to the right. You want to exploit that. You want to exploit that to grab a lot of knees very quickly. For the very first punch, you'll want to grab the knee on the back, perfectly to the back. There I grabbed it a bit to the left, so it did not work. So I know it would not work. So like here you grab the knee perfectly to the back, and then you just do a big rotation like this. You need to do a very weird arm movement because You will be pointing pretty much straight towards you. I start by, like, you don't really want to tilt. This is more so wrist movement to the left and to the right. I start by moving to the left. Then when I can no longer move to the left, I just move my entire arm to the left. And in the end, sort of my elbow is pointing towards my screen. So it's a very weird movement to do. Because you need to do it quickly. And as soon as you grab the knees, you want to go back towards your Wiimote pointing towards the screen. And you want to instantly point, you want to twist yourself so that you're pointing towards the camera. Because it's so much movement that your knees otherwise will not be there. There I failed because I grabbed my knee to the right and not perfectly back. So let's just do it again.
Okay, here we go.
I would argue it's a bit harder to do the arm in the first bunch than in the second or third bunch, if you have a square formation. Yeah, there I failed again. As you can see, like, not even I can do it. The tutorial maker, which is supposed to be good. It takes a lot of practice to get this consistently, which is why I say it's a very advanced technique. If you want to see it in action properly, I recommend you watch the broadcast world record. Come on. Allows a failure. Let's see if I can do it here better. For the second bunch, you sort of want to do it like that. You want to grab your first knee. You want to grab your first knee, go a bit forward, grab the second, and then go and twist. And you will get it like that. It's important that in both cases it works because you're in the center. And if you're in the center, naturally your circular movement will go farther, be more useful. Like here in Nice, you can't really do any armage. And this is a bit of a weird formation, that's just a straight line. I'll just restart and show it once again. It's really hard to explain the arm. It's also weird real life movements. But it's also a very advanced technique. It doesn't save that much time. It only saves time cumulatively. And you can only really do it for the first few bunches. So yeah, that was a good example. I'm happy with that demonstration. Here we do it again. You grab one, you twist yourself, and there we go. It's important that you don't over-concentrate in grabbing the bunches like this. At the end of the day, the most important part is moving quickly between bunches. So you don't want to like do the arm and then not be able to move to the other bunches. So even if you're able to do the twisting motion properly, if you cannot then take advantage of that time save by moving towards the next set of knees, then I do not recommend you do it. You may not always like get it super quick, but you can apply the general principles of just twisting your entire wrist and arm to grab knees quicker, and that does save time no matter what. It's generally more useful for the square formations for obvious reasons. So that's another reason why you probably should prioritize it over the line formation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have much else to say, though I did say a decent amount of skydiving things. Skydiving seems like a very simple sport, but it's actually very execution heavy. There are a lot of things that can go wrong, there are a lot of things you will have to learn through experience, but I also think it's very fun to go through that learning process. It's a much deeper sport than most people see, and I hope by doing this tutorial I made it a bit more clear how you need to go faster in skydiving. If you have any additional questions, please just let me know. I am more than happy to talk about skydiving, no matter your skill level, no matter who you are. So yeah, you can just leave comments down here if you're interested. So yeah, I hope this was useful to you, and have good luck with skydiving speedruns.